Hi friends, I'm Olga Koelsch and welcome back to my studio. I'm living in Norway, and Norway of course is famous for its stunning nature, fjords and mountains, and I can't help but not paint and share with you how I'm painting Norwegian landscapes, and I hope you really enjoy this process because it's very simple, very relaxing, and it gives very beautiful results. So let's just start. To paint mountain landscape, I prepare my very damp, clean brush and I fill in the area randomly just with white water, trying to imitate some mountains. Then I take very diluted green. I will take Cobalt green. You could use any dusty green mix you like. And I go with the tip of the brush, painting the top of the mountains, just over the top. Just a little bit, just like this, with some tipping moves, with some random moves. Try to avoid these ornamental sequences, paint something a bit random, and let the water just flow here in this area. Then I dry my brush with a paper towel and I just correct just a little bit here, and I'm ready for the next layer. If you observe the mountains, if you enjoy mountains, you notice that they come one by one in these rows. Sometimes they're dissolving in them in the air. And so that's what we are trying to emulate here. Just with the tip of the brush, I'm painting just this zigzag line, I would say. I would call it a zigzag line. And then I very carefully add a little bit of color just along this line, just like this. And maybe another roll. Ideally, you will wait until one row is dry and then you go with the second, third, etc. rows. But it's a little bit boring to wait. So I will try to make another lay with mountains. So right now I'm just painting with very diluted greenish color. I try to create some nice landscape, a bit different from the previous ones. Then I wash my brush, dry my brush a little bit, and with the damp brush I soften the edges and let the watercolor flow here. The closer mountains are to us, the more intense color they have, so you could add a little bit of color to the front mountain. And again, wash your brush, clean your brush, and soften the edge. Just soften the edge. So you probably already see how we are creating that mountain landscape. But to make it a bit more interesting, I take on the tip of the brush a little bit bolder color of cobalt green and go carefully along the edges, along some edges. I'm not outlining all the mountains. I try to make very random sequences of this zigzag, and with dry and clean brush I soften the edges. I soften these strokes carefully, just like this. I think this one is a bit too bright, so I need to soften it a little bit more. Just like this. And for the third layer I would suggest to paint something more like a forest, something more darker, more intense, and I add a little bit of Payne gray to our cobalt green mix, and I'm painting the forest, and I paint the forest with the belly of the brush, relatively random, just with wiggling the brush. And remember that forest shape is also quite different, could be a little bit bigger and closer to ours, or could be a little bit smaller, and sometimes it dissolves and sometimes it's more detailed the closer it comes. And what we remember that the horizon line is pretty straight, so I just, with the tip of the brush, I paint the horizon line. I add a little bit more intense dark color to the horizon. I wash my brush, dry my brush with a paper towel, and soften this line so it will look natural. And if I want to make some variety, I just go with my almost dry brush and blot a little bit of color. To add some texture, I go with tipping moves, just like this. And we imagine that this is our Norwegian fjord. So what we see here, it will be some sort of a fjord or lake. It depends on what you prefer. So a little bit watering the paper, and I'm taking more grayish mixture, Payne gray, and just go a little bit on the water side. Just remember that the images in the water, the reflection in the water should be mirroring the main landscape, so we have more intense, the bigger mass volume of trees here, so it should be pretty similar here in the water reflection. And that's it. Now let's paint here a tree, some forest, not mountain landscape but forest landscape. I will take for this purpose a smaller brush, round brush number 5. I will take again cobalt green and my favorite Peryleen green, a bit dusty, dusty green. So what I'm doing now, I start, for example, here, and I imagine that our forest grows like this. How I paint trees, let me show you. With wiggling moves with the tip of the brush, I don't, I'm not painting each and every tree. I'm painting the mass of the trees, and I start with a relatively light color. So I paint the tip of the tree and distribute, create some volume around. For the variety, I could add some olive green. I would like to create just a nice background. Just a nice background with tipping and wiggling moves. Don't hesitate to leave some white area around. A little bit more here. And this part will go more far from us, so it will be smaller, and then dissolving into just a small little tiny line of horizon, which we can't really see in details. I let it dry just a little bit, and then I take Peryleen green in a little bit more bold consistency, and with the same style I'm painting another layer. I try to keep my brush as dry as possible, but that's okay when it in some parts it flows, in some parts it's crispy and dry. That's how we create this randomness, this mass of trees. I like this Peryleen green because it creates this beautiful texture. It also a little bit depends on the paper. The more rough paper you have, the more interesting textures it creates, the more it's interesting to play around. Again, some for variety, some olive green. And we remember that this line goes into horizon, and our trees are getting less and less detailed and just turn into a green line. I would like to add some very fluffy moments on the background. And again, I would like to create a lake, some water underneath. I just go with very damp brush, maybe once again, and with the tip of the brush I'm touching that horizon line and just give the color the opportunity just to flow down by itself. And maybe I see that, for example, here it could use some of my help, so I add some color here, very soft. We are not going to details here anymore. And I soften the edge. I see that this part is more yellowish, also nice to mirror that effect just here and just here. So that's our second small little landscape, and let's paint something else, maybe more mountains, but in a bit of a crispy style. I will take some grayish color, Payne gray. Again, I just dump my color my brush here, and with the tip of the brush I bravely paint the mountain. What's important to remember, sun shines from the top, so this part of the mountain is under sunshine, and this, the opposite part of the mountain, is covered with shades. Also all small each and every shape on the mountain creates some shade, and that's what we are emulating here with our bigger brush strokes. With the tip of the brush you could create some nice texture, and it looks like more snowy mountain. I could soften the edges a little bit here. I like when mountains are softened a little bit in the bottom, and maybe a second one which is hidden just here. So just playing with brush strokes and with randomness of pressure on your brush, you could create a very beautiful and very natural mountain landscape. What I would like to do is to again soften the edges, so our mountains, they just dissolve into some fog very softly. So we have three landscapes. Of course, you could paint each and every on a separate piece of paper and frame it and enjoy it. And I hope you really like it. Thank you so much for painting with me, for watching this video. I'm looking forward to see your landscapes, and please tell me in comments where are you from, which mountains, lakes or forests are around. I'm looking forward to see your pictures. Subscribe my channel and see you next time. Bye bye.